Hi everyone, I'm Francesca Maxime. This is Wise Girl, and it has been a while since I've talked to you. It's April 24th right now, on 2017, and it's been a couple of months. So I first of all want to acknowledge that and also let you know where I've been and what I've been doing, and to let you know how that has changed. Um, I had taken a job as the head editor of a digital magazine, a new endeavor that I thought was really kind of interesting and great. And it was to focus on well being as the body and mind editor of the aspect of that magazine. And last week it was announced that we were bought out by another company, and many of us were let go. So the time that I had been spending there was not the time that I'm spending with you, first of all. And secondly, it's another great opportunity to sort of take stock and learn about impermanence and just how really there's nothing that's fixed or static, and there's really nothing that we can cling to in hopes that it's going to stay the same. And a lot of people about these kind of situations will say, well, be resilient. Are you looking for a job right away? Or, get back out there, do your thing, whatever it is. And that's certainly a big part of it. But I think that what's also a big part of it is rooting oneself to oneself in order to really own and know from the inside out what the next step is going to be. Because without sort of that internal compass and without that internal mapping as to what might be a wise direction to go in, to the extent that we're, of course, still releasing control, right? We're not attaching ourselves to the outcome. I don't have some fixed idea about what's next on the horizon for me. I'm open to that. But to actually be able to say, okay, let me sort of cultivate a certain amount of energy within myself now and take stock, if you will, and sort of really think about what makes sense going forward. So I'm sharing this with you only because I think probably it might resonate with folks, because I think that we've all been in situations where things that we didn't think might happen. And how do we deal with it? So one of the things that a couple of my friends have told me over the last week, they've basically just said, wow, you're handling this really well, or, you seem to be, I guess, still optimistic or positive or whatever. And I will say that without practice, without the techniques that I've learned, employed, and tried to share with you over the last 6 months or so about being able to self-regulate, being able to recognize that it's not what happens on the outside that's so important, but more what we're able to do on the inside, and sort of control our own temperature internally, as opposed to just worry about whether or not the sun is shining or the wind is blowing and the snow is falling. When we can control our own temperature, then we can always sort of be in a more balanced state. And so that's kind of where I want to start with today, is just being in a more balanced state, because a lot of folks who experienced despair and loss, even much greater than that of a job, people that we love, limbs that we had. I saw a commercial today for a mattress where a woman had lost a limb in a snowboarding accident, presumably, and just really sort of giving a new spin on resilience, if you will, because she was out there with her prosthetic snowboarding again, underscoring how passionate she is and was about her sport and her dedication to it. So taking that despair and loss, and how might we transform it into gratitude and even still make room for joy? How do we do that when we feel as though the world is against us, things have happened that we didn't expect, and when we're not really sure what is before us, what we need to be doing next in our lives? And it kind of goes back to that internal rooting that I was talking about, and really sort of building up the arsenal of internal trust and internal knowing versus somehow hoping that something might happen, right? Because hope in some ways, while valuable at a certain level, hope, faith, belief, they're all sort of along the lines of something out there, is sort of this idea that I want to have happen, and so I'm sort of having hope that it will happen. What if we could sort of transform that into the idea of, I have faith that the right thing will happen, whatever that is, even though I don't know what that is. Even though I don't know what that is. That somehow in the universe, with its energy and with its ever-changing elements of, birth and death and gain and loss and praise and blame, that we can circle back to a place of internal knowing and internal trusting that then allows us to unfold to recognizing that that's possible sort of universally. And that the more we are able to, in some ways, surrender to that and to welcome grace when it presents itself to us, meaning, for example, the job that I just lost, it was presented to me without me having looked for it. A friend of mine had seen that I might be a good fit for this, and I went through the process and I was hired. And so what seemed like it was the right thing that the universe was presenting, who knows, maybe it wasn't the right thing, but maybe it's, again, a step on the path toward being more of what the right thing is. Maybe there's a deeper wisdom there to look at. And so going back to this idea of being our own steward, internally rooting to what it is that we know about ourselves to be true, and continuing to build that up through practice, whether it's through meditation, yoga, mindful walking, whatever your practice is, kirtan, singing, there are a variety of ways in which we can come home to ourselves. That's never a bad place to put our energy, never a bad place to put our energy. And in fact, is a requirement, especially if we're in a situation where we're pulled in a million directions. If we have a job, if we have a family, if we have children, if we have external demands, and furthermore, if we're put on the ropes because we have financial difficulties or health difficulties and a variety of other circumstances. Forget about external things such as a political environment or our concerns about climate change and larger issues that also need our attention. But they, of course, need our attention when we're able to give ourselves our requisite attention first, so that we have something to give that is out of a sense of abundance and not out of a sense of self-depletion. Yesterday I was brunching with friends and we were talking about someone who was young and vibrant and beautiful and had a family, was about to get married, and ended up having a real conflagration of events that ended in the loss of her life. And it was all too much, what was happening at many levels. And a friend of mine who is still with us is also very much speaking this language of not seeing a future, not knowing what he can hold on to and what makes sense going forward. And in those times, one of the things that I've recognized is important to pay attention to is, can we widen our ability to see what is possible and the large, expansive universe that we live in? Can we widen to have, as one of my teachers says, mind like sky, as opposed to that more narrowly focused sense of what we feel is suffocating us? And is there a way to speak to ourselves in such a way that allows ourselves to be kind enough to ourselves to then say, this too shall pass, this too is impermanent, this too is another step on the path, and I may not know the answer and the outcome right now, and it may seem as though all of the things that are terrifically important to me, like family or values or whatever, may be disintegrating before my eyes. It may appear that way right now, but what if I could just take a step back, breathe deeply, and allow a little bit more space so that I don't feel so constricted and become so constricted so that there only seems like there's one option or one solution. Because there's always many solutions or options or unfoldings that can happen. And one of the things that we want to pay attention to is that we don't get so accustomed to our trained habit of mind of suffering that somehow it becomes an unaware addiction, if you will, to suffering, because it's something that we've just become so familiar with, but that we can somehow allow the possibility that something else might happen. And this isn't talking about being a victim or being, oh, woe is me. This is real compassion for the fact that there's a set of circumstances that are happening that are not ideal, that are seemingly challenging and extremely difficult, and also holding, on the other hand, the possibility that if we can create more space by just taking a little step back and try to expand our view, that maybe there would be another possibility in time, but that sometimes we need to give things time. And a good investment in ourselves in terms of spending a little bit of time with ourselves, trying to find some solitude and some quiet, and trying to just really recognize that we do have within our power the ability to take that critical inner voice that's often present and just listen to it kindly, pay attention to it, bow to it, say thank you for speaking to me in that voice that is so familiar, and then also say, and I'm not sure that I really want to listen to you quite so much right now, so I'm going to listen and tune into this deeper part of me, this deeper inner wisdom within me that exists, and say, now I'm going to connect with my true self. Now I'm going to connect with the part of me that is beautiful and magnificent and pure and always was and always will be. And I'm going to look at the behavior of others and even my own behavior that I find regrettable sometimes with kindness and compassion, and know that deep underneath all of that, there's a real sense of belonging, of being home, of trusting, that at every moment we are just on the path, at every moment. And anything can happen out there at any moment, and it's for us to decide how we are going to relate to what happens, and to, of course, get help, resources, reach out, ask people for assistance when needed, and to not feel as though we're being over asking, but that it's okay to be vulnerable and to have enough inner resilience that we're cultivating so that if some people say no or don't want to rise to the occasion or however it is, that we are still willing to put in that effort that life often requires of us in order to be able to see what's next. So I'm going a little long. It's been a while since I've talked to you, but I'll leave you with the quote that I came up with at brunch yesterday with friends that my friend said was a good quote, so I'll leave you with it. I release all expectations, but I remain open to being pleasantly surprised. I release all expectations, but I remain open to being pleasantly surprised. So let's see if we can't remain open to being pleasantly surprised in terms of what life may bring us, what is to unfold still, and to welcome spring and this good weather and all of the bounty that it shows us that is still present, the bounty and the beauty that life still brings to us, and literally take time to stop and smell the flowers. I know the lilacs are in bloom in my neighborhood, and it's a beautiful sight and smell to behold. So thanks again for listening. I will come back soon, I promise. And I'm Francesca Maxime. This is Wise Girl, and those guys over there, that's Penny and Maggie. They're doing their thing today. So take it easy.